Okay, hi. So today we're going to talk through very late the books that I read in August. Let's just jump right into it. So the first book I'm going to talk about is a 2023 release, and that is Maeve Fly by CJ Leede. This is an absurdist horror novel that is following kind of a story that is adjacent to an American Psycho, Patrick Bateman, but female. It gave me Boy Parts by Eliza Clark vibes, if you've read that. And it takes place in LA, and your protagonist she loves LA. She loves everything to do with LA. She has a very interesting relationship with her grandmother. She works as a Disney princess in what you assume to be Disneyland. It's kind of like watching her unravel and her life fall apart around her, like her psychologically unravel. It is very gruesome body horror. It's very absurdist. These things that are happening could not happen. The things she's doing, she could not actually get away with. I don't think that the book is really presenting it in a way to make you believe anything that's happening. It touts this display of the seedy parts of Los Angeles and the juxtaposition of the many parts of LA. You have her and her really good friend, and her good friend's brother moves to town, and their relationship kind of develops. It's pretty grotesque in a lot of the same ways that American Psycho is. So yeah, if you're not into that, I wouldn't recommend. I liked it for what it was attempting to accomplish, and if you're into that genre, I thought it gave off a good weird vibe. And the cover just kind of got me. The next one is The Invention of Morel by Adolfo Bioy Casares. This is translated from the Spanish, and it was originally published in 1964, but it got its translation in 1992. This is a very short, just around 100 pages, so I guess it's a novella, and you follow this man, and he is on an island, and weird things are happening. He originally thinks he's alone, and he starts to see other people there, and he's kind of interacting with them in a way, but they're not necessarily interacting back. He becomes quite obsessed with one of the people. He kind of talks a little bit of why he's there on the island in the first place, how he knew it existed, and he starts to unravel the mystery around this island. It's very surreal, you don't really know what's going on for a decent amount of it. You're kind of caught up in the way he's experiencing these things. There's a lot of anxiety around being on parts of the island, kind of trying to discover why these specific buildings are on the island. Then you start to kind of head in a direction where things begin to get explained, and that was actually the part of the book that I was less interested in. I thought that having this overarching mystery of you don't really know what's going on, you don't know why he's there, you don't know why things are happening the way they are, was a more interesting narrative than trying to explain why things were the way they were in a way that felt like you didn't have to explain it. I mean, that was kind of the point of the book, but that was the part that fell the most flat for me. But it's a very quick read, an Argentinian classic. So yeah, I wouldn't dissuade anyone from picking it up. It kind of gave me, J.G. Ballard, High Rise, maybe? It gave me similar vibes to High Rise in the claustrophobic, atmospheric way in which the narrative was conveyed. So the next thing I read was another 2023 release, and that was Chain Gang Allstars by Kwame, Adjei, Brenyah. So I had read his debut short story collection, and it was very interesting concepts. It's hard to tell with a short story if someone's going to take interesting concepts into an interesting long-form execution, because they kind of require different things. I think with a short story, you need a lot less follow-through. It's about a kind of near future America, in which case kind of like Gladiators meets our prison system. The prison system becomes more and more privatized, which we're kind of, headed in that direction already. People in the prison system can get into this fighting ring, like the chain gang, and then it's fight to the death matches. People are in different, I don't remember what they called them, different units, like groups of people, like 8 people that they don't fight each other, but they fight other people. And it's kind of like, I think on the back of the book, it describes it as like a kaleidoscope. I would also kind of describe it like this. Like, you do have narratives occurring, but you're kind of getting all these different perspectives. It's not like, I'm trying to think of a book, like Natalie Haynes' 1,000 Ships, where it's like you're not really coming back to the perspectives. It's like all the voices together are trying to form a cohesive narrative. I wouldn't really say it's like that. It's like you're getting a lot of different perspectives that kind of have their own narratives, but it's attempting to show you a wider view of this society and critique it in some way. So you follow people within the prison system who are in the chain gang. You follow someone who is being abused in the prison system who is not yet in the chain gang. You follow people who watch chain gang because it's also like a popularized TV show that people like. It's reality TV. It's the new reality TV. So you're kind of following all these other perspectives that are trying to show you a cohesive theme, but are kind of more disparate plots. I unfortunately did not have like a great experience with this book. I listened to it on audio and I read some reviews after, and there's things that are footnoted that I didn't realize were footnotes at the time, and it kind of caught me off guard because it was just like iterating things, like information about America that I already know. Things about the prison system, things about the judicial system, it was just things where I was like, why are you telling me this? It's hard for me to kind of parse down the issues I had with this book, because it attempted to do something complex while really not giving me anything I haven't heard before and not really wowing me. Like, I didn't find the plot to be like substantially well put together. I found the ending to be lackluster in terms of thematic content. It was showing a maybe hyperbolic potential future for the United States. The author wasn't really saying anything that hasn't been said before in an interesting way, I guess. Like the footnotes about the prison system, it was all things that have happened in America. It was legitimate facts about the judicial and penitentiary systems in the United States. To me, it would have been more interesting to kind of bridge the gap between the U.S. in which we inhabit now, those laws, and the world that the author was attempting to create, and show me a larger progression of things that happen to get me there with those footnotes. Like, be creative in those footnotes. I already know about maybe I'm a minority. I already know about the law that you're telling me that went into place in 1993. Like, you don't need to tell me that. So I think that for me, the plot didn't have enough forward momentum. The characters, like some of the characters got a lot of time on the page, were a bit more developed. The characters that were supposed to be villains were very one-dimensional villains. I think the problem I had with this book is it didn't convey any semblance of nuance to me. People have really enjoyed this book, but I personally wouldn't really recommend it. Yeah, especially for people who have already done the work, the learning. Like, it was interesting. I was reading the Goodreads reviews, and I saw a lot of them that were like, wow, the footnotes were so interesting, and it was such a different experience from my reading it, because I'm like, the footnotes were telling me things I already knew. Like, the footnotes provided do the work. I don't know, just do the work. Like, your fiction doesn't have to do the work for you. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. And then I'm going to talk about the Rainwild Chronicles. So I technically finished 2 of the books in August, the 2nd and 3rd, and I finished the 4th in September, but we're in October at this point. I'm just going to talk about it all together to make it make sense. So yeah, I read Dragonhaven, City of Dragons, and Blood of Dragons. So I guess in the realm of the Elderling, you have the Fit series, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th series, and then you have the series that take place in different parts of the world, which is Live Ship and the Rainwild Chronicles. And Live Ship and Rainwild Chronicles, home base of them is close to each other, but the scope of the books is like widely different. So like the Live Ship Trader series is epic fantasy. You have a big cast of characters, you're following a bunch of perspectives, they're in a lot of different parts of the world, and you kind of have this wide overarching plot that kind of rounds about and comes together. The Rainwild Chronicles are a lot more like quiet. You're really following a group of people who, I can't really say much because I would spoil things that happen earlier on in the realm of the Elderling, but you have a group of people who kind of have, they're like the outcasts of the Rainwilds, and they kind of volunteer to take on this task that the government doesn't think they're ever going to come back from, and so they kind of go up. They're going upriver, and no one thinks they're going to see them again. Like the first 2 books are kind of like their own arc, and the 3rd and 4th book are kind of their own arc. So to me, this could have been like a duology instead of a quartet, because book 1 doesn't really feel like a complete book. You feel like you have to go into book 2 as well. Books 1 and 2 were like, okay, we have this goal, the thing that I told you about before, that no one thinks they're going to be able to accomplish. They're working on their mission, and you have a mismatched group of people who come together and bond and have issues, and it's contained. And then you get to the end of book 2, and it's kind of like, well, now what? And then you see the now what in books 3 and 4. And you get a little bit more perspective because now you're seeing the things that have been happening over the course of the few months that they've been doing the thing. And it's like a lot more dramatic, and like, you know, you have all these people who have a bunch of different personalities or going through transformations. Some of them are teenagers. So drama obviously ensues. You have really strong, powerful women. You have creatures that are very reminiscent of cats in the way that they interact with the world, but they can like speak and voice their opinions. Speaking of cats, my cat just came over and was like, love me. You have like romances kind of happening. You have conflict between characters. Like it's fantasy, and it has its own small plot. And then in terms of the world itself, in terms of the realm of the Elderling, it is quite important in getting an understanding of the history of the Elderlings, of like society. There's what I think to be connections to the magic system in Fitz's books that we don't quite understand yet. Like it feels like it gives a really good setup into the next books. It's very character focused. It's very relationship focused. There's a lot of drama. And then there's just like really like, there's just like this one character arc that is so sad. I loved this character. He was like such a energetic and bright and happy personality, and you watch his transformation, you watch what the world around him does. Robin Hobb's just always really good at like making you feel things when it comes to characters. But yeah, that is the Rainwild Chronicles, and that's all I have for this. So those are all the books that I read in the month of August. Let me know your thoughts on them, and that is all I got. So until next time, happy reading.